Alright, it's the Pop Tower Podcast. I'm Peter W. Dawson.
Multiverse Soulful James Bullock.
There you go.
There we go.
We're multiversing like crazy. So today we're going to talk about video games and we're going to talk about movies. But we're mostly going to talk about video games because it's 2019, which means we have to spend a really long period of time talking about 2018.
Right.
Yeah.
And nothing's come out yet that we care about.
It's true. Well, you really think something's going to come out on the 31st that we're going to care about?
I don't know. Somebody might drop something. Who knows?
True.
They might do, or it might be just something so bad that they just like, oh man, we had to rush it out before the end of the year just so everybody forgets about it.
Yeah, there was something I was hyped about that's not related to video games that turned out to be one of those.
Ah.
I bet you know what one I'm talking about.
No, I don't.
It's a movie that we were both kind of interested in.
Oh yeah. Now.
And then we heard stories about a lot of our friends, including some people we know, walking out of the theater. So I'm just like, oh no.
Yeah.
I completely misjudged this. Let's not talk about that. This isn't the movie episode. This is the video game episode. So we're going to talk about mostly our favorite games of 2018. We're going to throw in a couple we don't like to get too negative on this. It's but there's going to be a couple of...
we want to talk about the best of, more so than anything.
And sadly, we do mostly play AAAs, so a lot of these are going to be AAAs. Although I think a couple on here will still surprise people, assuming they don't know us. But you want to just start out with your favorite game of 2018?
Oh, man. I was going back and forth. We talked about this, I think, off camera, trying to figure out, what is our favorite game for 2018. I've been going back and forth, and I finished the epilogue, Red Dead Redemption 2.
Yeah, that's fair.
It was the epilogue that really put it over the top for me.
The epilogue is really good.
Yeah. It's long, but it's really good, especially the ending. I thought it was marvelous. It was even better the fact that, not to spoil too much, but of course it's an epilogue, so you're going to pretty much get two endings.
Yeah.
And finding out there are actual multiple endings to a certain extent for one of the characters before the epilogue, and then the epilogue itself is, if this was a generation and a half ago, this was the end of the 6th generation into the 7th, the epilogue itself could have been a whole game. Absolutely.
And it's funny too, because Grand Theft Auto 5 played with the idea of multiple endings, but they sucked.
It was only one that felt good, and that was the funny thing about it. That was the one I initially picked, and then I replayed just to see how the other endings were, and I was like, man, I'm so happy I picked the first one.
Yeah, because it's why would you ever pick the other one? There's no point. What is wrong with you?
It makes no sense.
It's not very well handled.
Yeah.
A lot of that game wasn't really well handled, come to think of it. It's still gorgeous.
We've said this before, the further away we got from it, the more we realized, man, this game is not as good as it should be, or it could be.
I don't think I'm going to feel that way about Red Dead 2.
I'm not going to. It's obvious that I'm going to walk away from this for a long... I actually feel a lot more, confident in saying this is a fantastic game, or, a game of the generation, more than I felt about the original. And I love the original, but... It's just something about this one I think just felt, I guess maybe a little bit more human.
That's
not kind of an Undead Nightmare.
With maybe one or two possible exceptions, and I really don't want to debate this.
Right.
It's probably the best storytelling we've had of 2018.
Oh, definitely. And for anybody that really complains about, it is kind of slow, especially at the beginning.
But
the payoff,
so slow at the beginning.
The payoff, though.
Oh yeah, no, plenty of these games we talk about that end up being slow at the beginning usually have really good payoffs, unless, they're just slow all the way through. Even going through, seeing some of the later stuff in the game, Red Dead's later stuff some of the minigame stuff I still don't like.
Oh yeah, I wholeheartedly agree with that.
Ultimately, I still can't hold it against the game too much. It's not enough for me to say, maybe don't get it if you don't, it's no. If you have even the slightest bit of interest in Red Dead, you still need to get it.
Yeah, and if you understand what a Rockstar game is at this generation and this point, you can pretty much expect. You should know what to expect, really.
Yeah, and this is, the minigames aren't really worth it anyway. There's plenty of other stuff you can do if you don't want to do the minigames.
Yeah, well, that was the thing. Was I played a majority of the minigames once, and I was done with them. I didn't even care about it, and really didn't factor in that much, especially when you consider how much of a big deal it was in the first one.
Yeah.
It really didn't play that much a role into the overall narrative.
Especially in the first one.
Huh?
the herding in the first game.
Oh my goodness, yes.
If there's one thing you can hold against the first game, it's probably the herding minigame.
And not only that, but they make you do it like 3 times.
Yeah. It's really not that interesting.
Jack's got to learn how to herd, man. John doesn't know, but Jack's got to learn, and that's just bad. That was like the worst thing of Red Dead. I was so surprised like it came so early in the game, and I was happy to get away from it, and then it came back.
I know, you don't expect it to come back. But no, yeah, Red Dead 2, absolutely a game of the year. I don't want to give it to it. Like, we're not going to get into too much because we've already talked about this game at length.
Oh, yeah, of course.
But I will say, I don't want to give it my game of the year just because, like, this is the qualification I gave for it.
Okay.
It had to have a very fulfilling experience, which it did. But I also wanted it to be probably the most accessible game and engaging game on the list. And while it's super engaging, I don't think it's the most accessible, especially because of the slow start.
Oh, and not only that, so many mechanics you have to learn.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, just like, cleaning your horse and, grooming and all this stuff. It's just like, And you gotta be aware of the fact that if you misclick, horrible things are gonna happen.
Right.
Like I don't get sick of watching people accidentally misclick and then they're like mugging someone.
Yeah, it was funny.
And then they try to hit the cancel button, but because of the mugging simulation, it's changed and now they're just punching someone.
It's too late. Yeah, I've had it happen so many times. I try to jump on a horse after using the fast travel, the coach, and just happened to grab somebody and start choking them because they were happen to be nearby.
What's funny too is this bugged me way more in this game than it ever did in GTA 5 to accidentally jump out of a car.
Yeah.
But like GTA 5, there were warning signs for like this is probably the one thing Rockstar is really going to have to look at, because in GTA 5 you had the problem where if you're running, you can accidentally answer a phone, and if you're parachuting, you can accidentally answer a phone.
Yeah, it's one thing, and that was the same thing with this game where there are so many button prompts, but they use the same button for a lot of different prompts. Yeah.
Like, cool for them for adding depth, and I think some of the depth is really worth it, don't get me wrong.
Right.
But, like I'm saying, this isn't a canary in the gold mine situation, but it's, hey, maybe be more careful just so, because, well, we're definitely giving Red Dead 2 the, top prize, more or less. You could easily see where this could go wrong in future games.
Yeah.
That's probably the best way to put it.
It's ironic. That there's one game that came out by one developer featuring an engine that has gotten just roasted this year for its technical flaws, and like Rockstar kind of has that problem now, where more and more as we progress, now we're starting to see kind of like these flaws in the engine that need to be worked out if they want to. When they make another game and people don't kind of get on them about it for not improving on some of the mechanics.
We're going to come back to that, I think, in just a second.
Oh, yeah.
I want to talk about my game of the year, because we're definitely going to talk about that. I know what you're talking about. But I want to mention, I think, because with the description of the game, I think the one I want to give it to, the easiest to plug and play, and also super engaging, Spider-Man.
Right.
Like, I really thought I was going to give it to another game on this list, but it has some of the same problems that Red Dead does.
Yeah. When it comes to Spider-Man, I'm with you on that. I thoroughly enjoyed it. It was one of those games that, one, it surprised me because I was hyped for it, but it's always that fear. It's an open world game. We've seen so many of this generation. 2, it's a licensed game, so it may not pan out as well as we think it's going to.
Yeah, even though there was no official tie-in.
Right. And 3 is the main thing of just the pure fact of handling a Spider-Man game. It's very few and far that have actually been enjoyable for the most part. You might get into it and like enjoy the first half an hour, and then after a while it's like, man, this is just too much, or it's just not good. For you, what was like the key feature that stood out in Spider-Man that made it like, man, this is my game of the year?
Well, it's just the fact that you can plug in at any point, and you can quickly go to explore, much like you can in, like, an Assassin's Creed or whatever. Or in, almost any other open-world sandbox. But you can do it almost right away. Good chunk of the world's already accessible, and you just feel the freedom. Because of the web slinging. Like, we always talked about how Spider-Man 2, the movie, the game, had some of the best web slinging in video game history.
Right.
The web slinging in Spider-Man, this game, is so freaking good. It really makes you feel the freedom you have right away, even if there ultimately isn't that much to do.
Right.
Because there's still, a lot of areas to unlock, a lot of stuff to unlock, etc. But it gives you such a refreshing, immediate sense of freedom.
Oh yeah, the first time, because almost immediately when you start the game, you have your opening cutscene, and you're immediately thrust into the web slinging. And I was grinning so hard the whole time I was doing it, because I was like, man, this is really, really impressive.
Yeah, like, it isn't too cutscene heavy. I mean, there's still plenty of heavy cutscene moments, but it's not too cutscene heavy. It tells a pretty engaging story. Like, there's a few things I kind of groaned at because I've seen them done so many times, both in comic books and just other fiction in general. But it still worked really well, and it's probably better than half the Spider-Man comic stories out there.
Yeah.
If not more. Not to mention, it did a really good job integrating some really weird villains as well as some classic ones.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Mr. Negative is such a major part of the plot.
Yeah,
so weird.
When he's on screen, they do a great job with it. Like, I was actually surprised how well it turned out, especially when he's not. I mean, when you look at the core or the most profound Spider-Man villains, one of the last ones you ever think of would be a Mr. Negative.
Well, Lady Stiltman. I have to bring it back.
As I said, one of. That would be the last.
What about Kite Man?
No, we're still going Lady. We're still going Lady. That's
Lady
the last.
Yeah.
Yes. But like the only thing that I found that was a negative when it came to Spider-Man was, and it really is only attached to the fact of 100% completion. It's just how much stuff they loaded you down with, like the open world tropes of collectibles and finish all these crimes and all that kind of stuff that never really differentiated itself from one another. It was just, you had to fill out and do all these things until you hit this certain number. And that was the only thing in that I felt disappointed, especially like the end when I'm kind of grinding to finish up, and you're just like, oh, I got another one. It's the same thing over and over again.
Yeah, like, they didn't handle the grind of the radio missions very well.
Oh, yeah,
That's probably the biggest glaring flaw for me. And there is a way around that so you don't have to grind too much at the end, but it's counterintuitive.
Right.
Because it basically means take some extra time just to sling around until one activates before you go to the next mission. Because then you have a better chance of pacing yourself so you don't have to grind. Like, it's a simple thing, but it still feels counterintuitive because you got so much. Because, I mean, the radio can't trigger while plot stuff's happening, and you tend to have plot stuff happening in between, J. Jonah James' podcast, and people just phoning you all the time. Those things are amazing.
Yeah, that was such a great feature. That really was.
Yeah.
Oh, man, so many more games did something like that. Of course, it wouldn't be as nice because everybody would be doing it, but it's just one of those little key features that, like, man, every time I'm web slinging, I'm just expecting it to pop up, and I'm happy when it does, but it's so ridiculous.
Yeah. This is probably going to be I've got, I didn't play Red Dead or Spider-Man at my home.
Okay.
I'm probably going to replay these at my home. Like, I almost guarantee, like, a couple of weeks you're going to start seeing, Spider-Man stuff popping up in my achievements feed.
Yeah.
I almost guarantee that's going to be the next one.
I'm honestly going to sit back and wait until like a Game of the Year edition's coming up, all the DLC.
Yeah.
I'm definitely going to pick it up then for another one. Just another whole playthrough, yeah.
Yeah, because the DLC we've already got is pretty good.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like, so I definitely want like a Game of the Year edition. And you know it's going to happen. 2019.
Do you want to talk about the negative thing before we get into some more positives real quick?
Yeah, let's knock it out of the way.
All right. So, I think by and far for both of us, probably one of the biggest disappointments of the year, it's going to be Fallout 76.
Okay, now, I will correct you on that. For me, the biggest disappointment was We Happy Few.
Oh, right, and we already talked about that.
Yeah, we talked about that. That was the biggest disappointment for me. But the worst game of 2018 for me was Fallout 76.
Yeah. I actually got a beta code.
Uh-huh.
I knew I probably wasn't going to play the game anyway.
Right. Yeah,
man.
You definitely let me know beforehand. It's like when we were trying to figure out, like, what are we going to talk about in the near future? It's like, I'm not playing Fallout 76. I said I was going to rent it. I definitely told you if I could, I was going to rent it. And
yeah.
Oh, my goodness, man. That was probably the worst 25 hours or so I've ever played in a video game in the last maybe 3 to 4 generations.
To be fair, the nuke thing wasn't as bad as I thought it was going to be.
No, that wasn't a bad thing. That really wasn't. And
that really wasn't the problem.
So that really wasn't an issue.
And if you look at it at a very core base level, there's actually some good stuff here.
No, that's the thing. It's just one of those ideas, and we've talked about this in the past when we talk about certain games. It's an idea that if they had more time to flesh out and plan and kind of expect how people would work together or not work at all, they would have had a better game than this.
Well, I think there's two fundamental flaws with the game.
Mm-hmm.
One, VATS doesn't work.
Oh, yeah, it's ridiculous.
Yeah, like, there's some clever stuff they did with the level ups and, like, the perks and everything. I mean, it still feels like a bit of a gotcha with, the money and everything that you'll actually need to hand over to get more stuff. But it's not as bad as I thought it was going to be in that. But the VAT system flat out doesn't work.
No, it's just pretty much a screen effect. That's it.
It's completely useless, and, like, this is something they really should have thought about. Because, I mean, one of the big appeals of, Fallout 3 and 4 and New Vegas was the fact that you had VATS. And, I mean, obviously, you can't do that in an online game, and they didn't figure out a good workaround.
Especially when you have, like, enemies glitching around the screen or moving around, like, sporadically, and you can't really predict exactly how they'll move. And next thing you know, like, one's 10 feet away from you, and next thing you know, he's, like, right in front of you. You can't even react because you do not have VATS.
Yeah, like, I don't know if this would have been the solution, but, like, just off the top of my head, if you trigger VATS, you can't move, enemy can't move, you're both immune to damage while it's active, but, I mean, you have to still trigger it within, like, 10 seconds.
Right, and to me, like, if they could have just had it identify the difference between an enemy AI and a human AI, you could still have VATS.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. Just, like, it's whatever they did do wasn't working. I don't necessarily think I have the correct answer, but like I said, I don't want to harp on this too much, but I want to point out the other thing. There should have been human NPCs.
Oh yeah, definitely. Like the world itself and the quote unquote stories that are available, because I mean, just all audio logs essentially.
Yeah.
It just feels so barren and so underwhelming. Like every time I mean, they explained to you right at the beginning. This world, this area at least, has been nuked to death. It's nothing here living outside for some reason, outside of gorgeous foliage that somehow in 20 years is still around after a big blast. And like everyone that's human is dead.
Yeah.
And it hurts it a lot because you don't feel that, you don't have that notion of like walking into somewhere and all of a sudden being greeted, or walking into a situation and seeing like a fight break out or something like that. It's just nothing appealing in the sense of quest giving.
No. It's just barren, isolated, and that's cool for like short term, but if you're gonna make a big multiplayer experience out of it, it just feels hollow.
Right, and like another example for like a lot of just a lot of MMO games overall is the fact that like they had this key core system of, like for Destiny, for example, where everyone goes to find where their missions or their quests are. And, people kind of gather around like, hey, now we're on the same quest, let's team up. And that's not here. That doesn't happen. And then you have the events that are just they're not the same. They don't produce that same feeling of, hey, this event, we're in the same area, let's team up and slaughter everything together. It's just off. It's really weird.
Yeah, it just makes the game feel super slapdash and just like the enemy designs are cool, and the camp mechanics are pretty solid, but everything else about it just feels so hollow and slapped together. Like if it wasn't for the fact that there were some interesting new enemy designs, I would almost say this was a complete cash grab. Not sure of what. Probably some weird attempt to cash in on the PUBG craze.
I don't know if you could even consider that, though.
It's like, I don't know.
I don't know what it was trying to accomplish.
I just don't understand what this was for. Was it just like, hey, we need something to come out this year. Why don't we throw together some kind of Fallout multiplayer thing? And
I mean, even if they wanted to like have more people, you only have 20 people on a server per whatever game you're on. If you're in a server, if you cranked it up and you loaded it, it's only 20 people around. Yeah. So it's not like you even have an economy that they were heavily promoting when they first announced it. Like, you could be a high-selling merchant.
Nope. Nope. They don't have anything in place for this. Like, it's not even like Star Wars Galaxies where you can hire your own NPCs. I mean, man, if they had implemented the base building Fallout 4, that would have been awesome.
Yeah.
And, like, that's where the NPCs come from. Players create the NPCs by creating settlements. That would have been good. You can't do that.
And that was another thing, like, just tying into the overall plot of them saying that you're rebuilding the area, or you're rebuilding this area of West Virginia after the bomb drop once the vault opened. And you never see any progress. It's not like, and it's not even feasible because if you shut the game off or you log out, you're always going to go to another server. You can't pick what server you want to be on.
Yep.
And we're not going to even talk about the glitches like that. That's a whole nother podcast.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a mess.
That's pretty much what you got.
Yeah.
I don't even know what else to say now.
I know we need a palate cleanser.
Okay, I want to talk about one of my other... Let's talk about a game we both enjoyed, I think.
Okay.
This is one we actually haven't talked about yet, because I actually thought it had a good chance of becoming my game of the year.
Mm-hmm.
It didn't, but it's still in my top 5.
I'm intrigued to find out why.
You want to know why?
Yeah, why it's not your top game of the year. So you were like, we talked about it before, you were really pro at first.
Yeah, I still am.
Right.
Still am. And I think it comes down to the narrative kind of falls apart.
Mm-hmm.
It's still fine. I don't have too many problems with the narrative. In fact, I really kind of like what the narrative does with its source material.
Yeah, I wholeheartely agree. It's just one of those things that one is a little too short, and that middle portion is a little janky.
Yep. You know what I'm talking about here.
Yeah.
But I think the intro also takes too long.
Oh, that's true. Yeah.
Because I was talking about plug and play, and that's what gave it to Spider-Man. Otherwise, I probably still would have given it to this one over Red Dead, but just barely.
Mm-hmm.
Just because, like, this game, despite the parts I wish were faster, still feels faster and more, and like it made me feel more engaged with everything the game had to offer.
All right.
So the game we've been talking about is Fist of the North Star: Lost Paradise.
Yes. The funny thing about it, it's the best Yakuza game of 2018. That's not a Yakuza game.
And because Kiwami 2 is really good.
I love Kiwami 2. I really do. But it's just like one of those things.
I didn't like 6.
I liked 6. I did, but it was just... It definitely has some flaws. We talked about that. It definitely has some very glaring flaws. But when it comes to Fist of the North Star, like, the one thing that stands out to me is the fact of how absurd the overall battle system of the Yakuza games is. But it's always been kind of rooted in realism to a certain extent. Like,
goodbye realism. F-realism.
Yeah, the whole, bodies glowing like it's the last dragon, that kind of realism. But
the bodies. No, wait, there's no bodies left. James, the bodies have already exploded.
But I just love the fact that the battle system in Fist of the North Star: Lost Paradise just embraces the absurdity of the actual source material, because it has no choice but not to. But the first time when I saw that they actually had exploding heads, just like in the source material, be it the comic books, the manga, whatever, or the anime, I was just like, oh man, I'm so happy right now.
Okay, I need to real quick I'm going to go real quick background. Fist of the North Star is one of the daddies of anime. Not granddaddies, but daddies. It basically popularized the martial arts era of anime, which gave us, if nothing else, JoJo's Bizarre Adventure and Dragon Ball Z. Mm-hmm. In particular, the fighting in Z. Because, grown-up bodies.
Yes.
Because that's when they really started to take the martial arts seriously.
Right.
Well, about as seriously as you can. Anyway, in this case, Fist of the North Star: Lost Paradise is essentially Kung Fu the TV series, which is a roaming martial artist going through the Wild West, but in the Mad Max universe, because it's post-apocalyptic. And as a result, your protagonist, Kenshiro, is a master of the ancient assassination art of Hokuto Shinken, or the Fist of the North Star / Fist of the Big Dipper, all the different names. Fist of the North Star is what we call it in North America. And as a result, he's essentially post-apocalyptic Kung Fu Jesus.
He can't heal. He can't heal.
He restores a girl's voice in the first episode of the anime. And later he does cure the blind. I mean, You can say what you feel about potential religious symbolism about a man who makes people explode by hitting their pressure points, but which is how he kills people.
Yeah.
Like the whole thing is he's got badass martial arts and he strikes, what is it, 108 pressure points?
Yes.
Because there's a lot of 108 stuff in here. And yeah, he hits one of the 108 pressure points, which causes people to explode, or heal them, or make them feel regret before they die, make their back collapse. There's a lot
I
of
love
weird...
the fact that there are certain times where you can hit a pressure point in a certain way. It's not an immediate death. It's one of those things like you have a chance to kind of talk to them and explain why you did what you did, and then you die.
Yeah, I mean, one of the series catchphrases is you don't even know you're already dead. Because he'll then turn, and it'll be like 3 seconds, and then he's like, yeah, right, and all of a sudden the guy's head starts to bulge, and then he explodes. And they use the Yakuza battle system, which James and I have talked about at length being a great battle system.
Yes.
You know, still room for improvement. I wouldn't say it's flawless by any stretch, but I like it better than some other battle systems I can name for games that won Game of the Year before.
Yeah.
Just to give you some idea. And I would say, yeah. So you get to make people explode in casual combat. That alone, the fact that they captured that spectacle so perfectly in this game. And then there's the Yakuza minigames.
Yes.
Dialed up to 11.
Some have been improved, some have been radically changed, and some are just absolutely insane.
You can be a bartender and do bartender martial arts.
The batting cage is hell with a steel beam.
It's not really a batting cage. It's more like...
it's a batting arena. It's an arena.
Yeah. Yeah, the baseball minigame is something else. I like to show it to people even though I'm not really good at it. It's actually kind of hard. Like, that one's probably one of the less well-designed, although still decent minigames.
Yeah, it's kind of iffy. Like, with the actual baseball... Like, the batting cage in any Yakuza game, you kind of have a better idea of how to hit it and hit it like you want to, whereas this is kind of a random number generator kind of deal.
So, it's like, oh, what? So, Kenshiro from Fist of the North Star, he tends a bar and he plays baseball? Yes. It's like, if that's not crazy enough for you, did I mention he also performs medical procedures / assassinations in a medical clinic set to music?
Yes.
Did I also mention he goes out and gathers arcade games so he can open an arcade?
Yes, he also races. And don't forget, he is also a host.
Yes, he is the manager at a hostess club in the post-apocalypse. And kudos to them, they actually have some less than conventionally attractive women working that club.
Yes. It's varied in the appearances, and it's like certain instances where I was kind of surprised, like, oh, they went there with this instead of everybody using the same body type.
Yeah, no, they actually have genuinely different body types. They still have boob jokes.
Yes.
You know, look,
it's a Yakuza game.
They have more than a few erection jokes.
Yes.
I mean, Kenshiro thankfully handles it appropriately compared to Kiryu in the Yakuza games.
Yeah.
Or Majima, I guess. But, yeah, it's pretty great. And then, to top it all off, just, they take the plot of the anime / manga, because it was a manga first, of course, and they condense it, sort of reorganize it, cut out a lot of the fat, and it's quite refreshing as a result.
Yes, it really is.
There's still some problems, but I will say they give some characters who, there's some characters that I think got a little underserved. Like, probably the most glaring one is Thouser.
Yeah, I was going to say, he definitely...
He just comes out of nowhere and
he was a one-chapter deal, that was it.
Yeah, he's like, oh, look, there's Thouser, and he's gone. Cool story, bro.
He's a powerful guy, but you wouldn't know it.
Yeah, they didn't even set him up. They set up some of the other ones, like when Rao shows up.
Yeah.
It's still a bit of a left field when he shows up, but it's not as bad as some of the other ones. Like, Yagi showing up is foreshadowed like crazy. Sorry, didn't they actually call him Jagi?
Yes, they did.
Yeah, it is Jagi. I always call him Yagi. It's like the Gob Job situation from Arrested Development all over again. At least this time it was Japanese, so
it actually makes sense. Yeah.
Anyway, Jagi shows up, and his storyline's probably a lot better.
Yeah. The only thing I hated with that scene was the boss battle with him.
Oh, yeah, the one where you can't move. Yeah. he has too much health for that.
Yeah, it just makes no sense.
Like, the general controls were fine, it was just, he has too much health, so it takes too long.
Right. Like you said, you can handle it once you get used to it, and you don't, it's very hard to die when it comes to that situation, but once you, but just that initial, like, shock, it's very similar to Shenmue, where, like, all of a sudden now you're in first person fighting, and, like, it makes no sense, like, they give you no warning or any training or build up to it. It's just like, here you go, we're going to switch it up on you out of nowhere.
Yeah, it's a boss battle, so hopefully you have some healing items.
Yeah.
But, it's a really fun game. It's one of the most creative games I think we've gotten this year.
Very much so.
I mean, especially in the confines of a, I'd call it more creative than Spider-Man.
Yeah, I mean, and
Spider-Man was pretty...
And once again, it's a licensed game.
Yeah, this is what I'm saying. Like, there's still some other really creative games. Like, there's one we're going to mention later on, which I think is pretty creative. But, this nearly became my number one. But I think I might actually put Red Dead slightly ahead of it, too. But just slightly. But either way, Spider-Man's definitely my game of the year. These are just, like, super close.
Yeah, it really is. This is a tight year. Like, I know, like, last year we had a very, like, close argument. It was with Yakuza 0 and Persona 5.
Yeah.
This time it's like we got at least about 5 games that we were, like, kind of, like, juggling before we finished, like, our list.
Oh, yeah, I got 2 more I want to mention, but, I mean, one of them you're probably going to mention.
Yeah. Well,
and we've already talked about anyway.
Yeah, I probably would just jump right to it right now, God of War.
Yep.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. That won Game of the Year at the Game Awards.
Yes.
Which I think we have to give some credibility to.
Yeah.
I mean, video games, it's still hard to give credibility to any major award show, and especially since Game Awards, they have all these trailers now, so it's kind of like a mini E3.
Yeah, it really is.
So, it's hard to say if they're really that unbiased and stuff like that, but credit where it's due. Everyone thought Red Dead was winning, and God of War won.
Yeah. And
so,
you know what the thing about it? I think Red Dead was a situation where it just came out too late for an award like this.
Possible.
I think that like people didn't have enough time with it. Like I said, for me, it was the epilogue that put it over the top for me. So, like, at first it was God of War was my number one until the epilogue, and I finished that. So I was wondering if people had just more time with God of War, and it was like, hey, God of War is my game of the year, and they just had not finished Red Dead. It's such a big game.
Boy, we have an epilogue. Have you not played our epilogue, boy? You must play the epilogue. Sorry. I had to do a boy riff at some point.
Yeah, you had to get it in there. But, like I said, the only thing, like, for me, and that was another thing that kind of put it over the top for Red Dead over God of War, was the fact that it felt like, we talked about the boss battles, like just the lack of a variety of boss battles compared to like older God of War games. But like, it kind of ties into the fact that it felt like, this was the first one, and we leave a lot of stuff closed or locked for a potential sequel.
Yeah, because they didn't want to dive too much into the mythology yet.
Right.
Because we only really got like 4 or 5 things from Norse mythology, and there's a decent amount that people don't even know about.
Right, and they tease a lot of it.
Like the average person might not know about.
They tease a lot of it. They tease certain worlds that you can access that are attached to Norse mythology, and of course they tease the appearance of Thor coming that we never see. Like, it's just so many things that they tease for a potential sequel that, while it's, like I said, a very good game, and it's satisfying in the conclusion aspect, but it just definitely leaves a lot open for a sequel in the sense of, whereas, like, it just felt like they were not as creatively inclined to deliver everything because they knew, hey, we got a good enough game already that we can save some back. Yeah,
let's see what we can do, and then if we get a sequel, we'll really start to play with things. And I do hope they do.
I really do. It's got to happen.
Yeah, because if they do a sequel and it's even half as good as this, but like has more like toys to play with, I mean, I'll be totally down for that.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah, God of War was on my list too, and then I got one more that we haven't actually talked about, but I don't think you've played.
I probably have. I think I know what you're talking about, and I haven't.
Yeah, so I'm going to try and explain this one. So this is, I wouldn't say it's that obscure, but it's a little more obscure, because this is from Obsidian, the studio that, has done stuff like Fallout New Vegas, and, they've done a lot of classic stuff. I don't want to get into the full list. That's just the one that felt most relevant to me after we talked about 76. So this is Pillars of Eternity 2, Deadfire. This is a pretty good top-down RPG, kind of isometric, I think would be the term.
Yeah.
Yeah, isometric perspective, yeah. and it's a sequel to Pillars of Eternity. Both of these games were crowdfunded, by the way.
Mm.
And I actually funded this one, so thank God I liked it. But I mean, I liked the first one though, so I mean, I was probably gonna like this one. And they expanded on the original pretty well. Like, it's a very involved D&D-esque, but not actually D&D mythos. Like, they really try to do their own thing with, like, the idea of souls being reborn. And, like the afterlife has a major element of this series, especially because you also start interacting with gods and everything.
Mm-hmm.
And, the main antagonist of this one is actually one that kind of shows up in what was essentially a bonus dungeon. Because a bonus dungeon in the original Pillars of Eternity had this giant statue buried under your castle. That statue comes to life in the sequel, destroys your castle, and then heads off towards the Deadfire Islands. So it's like, maybe I should deal with that. So, you end up having to command a ship of, or multiple ships potentially of people to go up and deal with a weird supernatural event that is basically destroying an archipelago.
Mm-hmm.
Archipelago. However you pronounce it. You know the word I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
Some old friends and some new friends join you on this journey, and you get to manage a crew, and you get to, do a lot of all kinds of crazy D&D stuff, or RPG stuff. You go on epic quests to find bandits and bring them to justice. You explore uncharted islands. You navigate whirlwinds. You do all this great stuff. And probably the biggest turnoff for some people is going to be that a lot of it is still text-based.
Right.
Despite, because, the graphics aren't the best, because they never have been with this engine, sadly. They probably look more 2010-ish at best. The hair in particular isn't terribly well defined. But the voice acting's on point. The writing's very much on point. One of my favorite new characters is there's a priest that joins you early on, and I can only describe her as a quirky Southern Belle follower of the Soul Reaper. She even has signature weapons. She's got a sickle and a lantern, and she uses her lantern to suck up souls. And she's a delight. And what's kind of nice is whenever you gain an NPC companion, because you can pick what class they are, because they always have two class options, or you can choose to have them be a hybrid class of the two, which I thought was an interesting design choice to help customize how you want your NPCs to balance out with your player character. And of course, you can always just go and hire mercenaries who end up being just custom characters with no personality, which is fine. No, so it's there's a lot of depth to the game. One of the things I didn't like, though, besides the fact that it had some really glaring bugs, something that Fallout 76 also did, Red Dead not so much. Right?
Yeah. No, I mean, it had a few. I think it was more technical issues than bugs. Just design flaw issues.
Yeah, and ditto Spider-Man. I didn't notice too many actual bugs.
Right.
And Fist, I don't think there was any that I saw.
No, I had not had one single crash or obvious bug or anything.
Yeah, the Yakuza games in general have been usually pretty good about that.
Yeah, I've never really had any problems with that. If you think it's a bug, it's usually just missed time. You thought a mission was supposed to activate here, and it's just not that point in time.
Yeah, storyline stuff like that.
Yeah,
it can happen. Yeah, no, in this case, this one had some pretty glaring bugs, and probably the most annoying thing is it's real intimidating when you start.
Mm-hmm. That was definitely, to me, that was the same thing with the first Pillars of Eternity. It was just that overall feeling of, man, it's a lot to take in right at the beginning.
Yeah. This is not for the faint of heart, but it is one of my favorite, more involved RPGs of the year. Spider-Man's not really an RPG. Spider-Man's not an RPG. It's just the North Star is really not much of an RPG.
No,
God of War is not an RPG.
No.
It's probably my favorite RPG of the year.
It probably is. I can't really think of any standalone RPGs that really shook up 2018. It's not in the same vein as Persona 5,
No, because Persona 5 was easily my favorite game of last year and my favorite RPG. But in this case, because like I said, when I beat the game, the emotions I had.
Right.
And I definitely had that when I beat God of War, when I beat Red Dead, and everything else. It's just, these games are definitely emotionally resonant. So that's why I had a hard time this year. Pillars, I have some emotional connection to the characters and the tough choices, but because there's so much silence and it's all text, it does lose something for me.
Mm-hmm.
And, like, I know that's going to make me sound elitist because I do think there are text games that can really be engaging. But this one, it did bug me a bit with this one. Which is a shame. But, I mean, one of my favorite parts is when I beat the original Pillars of Eternity and it told me all the things I did wrong. Because I accidentally pissed off, like, every god. So every god's like, we unleashed this horrible plague. We unleashed this horrible plague. So, like, the Pillars games definitely give you an epic scope. It's just unfortunate, yeah, they're kind of intimidating. In this case, Pillars 2, crew management gets real nervous early on because the main items you have lower morale, and you don't start out with high morale. So it's like, I've only got a few things that'll raise morale. So what do I do? So I don't think they thought through the morale system for your crew that well. Because it's like I gotta feed my crew. All I have are water and hardtack. That lowers morale. Uh-oh. You see what I'm talking about?
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, alright, I'll give them fruit to improve morale. I've only got 8 fruit. This isn't gonna last very long. So the morale system is probably the biggest thing I would say about Deadfire that probably should have been thought through better. But the ship combat isn't bad. It's turn-based text combat, but like they show you your ship orientation and stuff like that, ship health, etc. So that's not bad. And just the regular combat's still really good. Ditto the tactical elements and the new spells and everything. Like that's all fine and dandy. Yeah, do you recommend Pillars of Eternity too? We're starting to go a little long, but this episode's going to be longer anyway.
Right.
Do you want to talk about any other games? I've got one more on my list.
I mean, just like a quick fire, one that I was really happy about this year, Hitman 2. I thought it was really, really good. Like it's Hitman but better.
It's not gonna get a game of the year from us or even but it's like solid game.
Very much so. Soul Calibur 6 I think is highly underrated.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah, it's got issues of course, but what fighting game doesn't? Like I said, I like Yakuza 6 a lot more than you did.
I really hated that ending.
Oh man, I know it's like one of those things. For consoles, specifically for PS4, Fire Pro Wrestling World.
Nope, that's a good one to. Yep.
Yeah, that was really good. Of course, it came out last year, but it finally came out on consoles this year. And surprisingly so, like WWE 2K19, I was so surprised, specifically with my career mode, of how much fun I had playing that. Yeah,
that actually had some good design.
Yeah, that was about time.
I know, right?
And last but not least, definitely, probably one that nobody really thinks about too much, and if for good reason, because essentially it's a remake, Shadow of the Colossus.
Yeah, it's fair.
Yeah.
Because it is a remake.
Yeah.
It's just a really solid one. It's not. Yeah. Well, I wouldn't even say remake. It's more remaster.
That's true. Yeah.
It's a really good remaster.
Very much so. That's the epitome. It's funny because we still are waiting for Final Fantasy VII. Well, I mean, I guess we're not really waiting. We're just, if it comes out, it comes out. But the remake of Final Fantasy VII, this is what we wanted. That's all you had to do. That's all you had to give us.
No, you just had to make it graphically pretty, but they're doing all this other stuff with that. I mean,
we'll
see what happens.
We're never going to get it.
But I also want to give a shout out to one of my favorite things this year was Dead Cells. Which is the Metroidvania, because I don't play a lot of Metroidvania, but I do enjoy a good one.
Right.
And Metroidvania, for those who don't know, basically side-scroller, intense survival. You get really analyze enemy actions. And in this case, there's also roguelike elements.
Mm-hmm.
And dying is just kind of an inconvenience. And then you end up just going shot around and all that stuff like that. It's a good combination of all the classic elements you would expect from these types of games. It's really well balanced, and my favorite part of all this is it got so much attention because somebody else screwed up reviewing the game.
Yeah.
It's probably my favorite controversy of 2018 because it did a good game a service because somebody at IGN decided to rip off somebody else's review. And as a result, all this controversy got shoved this way. But none of it was directed at the game, so the game got a lot of free press over this.
Right.
Because, I think it's one of those things, people are always itching to break down bad reviewers, especially because, the reviewer culture in video games doesn't have the respect that I think movie critics or television critics do.
I think it's one of those things where it comes like television and movies, it's kind of moved past that now. It's more like video games can be, like that's how it used to be for television and movie critics. Is what video game critics are now.
Yeah, it's true. It happens.
What do you know about movies and television? What do you know about making a video game?
Yeah, pretty much. It's a fair point. But, I just want to shout out to Dead Cells. It is also a very good game. You guys should check it out. And shout out to game I just got that I haven't really had a chance to play, Smash Ultimate.
Ah! Man.
I've unlocked maybe 20 characters so far. But, I just want to point out, they realized that the previous Smash Bros. Was kind of disappointing, and then the producer went in and he's like, guys, we got to get everyone back for this next one. And he's like, everyone? Everyone. But we'd have to contact like 7 other companies. Everyone. And then, not to be outdone, Nintendo went, hey, we should reach out to some interesting people for the DLC characters.
Yeah. And
then they grabbed Joker from Persona 5. I'm like, good on you, Nintendo. Yeah. Good on you. Like, actually, to wrap this up, I want to say something about video games.
Okay.
It's probably important, worth saying. No company gets a free pass. No matter how consistently well they deliver. Like, Bethesda's kind of been getting raked over the coals lately for 76. And I think rightfully so, because you can never give a company a free pass. Yeah, Bethesda also did Fallout 3 and 4, which are pretty good games. Like, I think Fallout 4 was my game of the year when that came out.
Mm-hmm.
And I do not regret that decision. But, and of course, a lot of people love Skyrim.
Oh, yeah.
I don't want to say everybody, but I mean,
the fact that they can re-release the game as many times as they have on so many different platforms, people still buy it.
I might get it on my Switch.
Yeah.
But, just no developer gets a free pass, so don't ever give, like I said, good on Nintendo. If they do something screw up, we're still going to call them out on it.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
As long as it's relevant to what we're talking about,
right.
Of course.
I mean, I'm not think about, we had Bethesda, we had Blizzard, we had DICE this year with Battlefield 5.
Oh, right, yeah.
Yeah,
that was a little weird.
Yeah, so many developers got hit hard this year. And for a lot of reasons, and most of them are good reasons.
Yeah, Blizzard, I mean, you can argue whether or not it was fair. I mean, they need to understand their audience, though.
Exactly.
And DICE, it's like, don't pour kerosene on a fire, even if you don't agree with why the fire started. Just because you don't agree with a fire doesn't mean you should make it worse. Like I said, I was kind of on their side, and even I was just like, guys, don't do
that. Come on.
No.
You know what you're doing.
Honey, no.
You know what you're doing right now. It's not going to end well.
Just sit in the back. I'll get you a juice box and some spring cheese. Anything else you wanted to get us?
No. 2018, a really good year. Like, even some of the games that kind of like mid-tier for me, like overall, like Far Cry 5 and State of Decay 2. Even then I didn't feel like I was regretful of playing them. Fallout 76 was like the only one I can say that. And maybe a little bit of We Happy Few.
To a degree, it was fun.
I mean, they should have went with a point and click with that one, I think.
I suppose.
Yeah.
All right, we're already running along, but that's fine. The movie we're going to talk about, I think it's going to...
Yeah, we can do a little quick summary of this and why we liked it, because I don't really want to spoil too much, because the spoilers start pretty early.
This is true. So, Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. Go see it. End review. I am kind of tempted to shut it off right there.
Yeah.
I really am. It is legit it's probably gonna be one of my favorite. It's probably gonna be my favorite superhero movie of 2018.
Wow!
Which is saying something.
The top 3 are just ridiculous right now. Black Panther, Avengers, and Spider-Man.
Yeah.
This is ridiculous. Like, they have Marvel has gone out of its way this year.
Yeah, and that's the crazy thing. This is mostly Sony, and if you could look at the creative staff, because this is Phil Lord, who is who along with Christopher Miller did the Lego movies.
Okay.
Like, and I think they did the 21 Jump Street movies too.
Maybe, yeah.
But I think it's mostly just Phil Lord. No, Christopher Miller was a producer too. Yeah, but Phil Lord did the script with Rodney Rothman, who's one of the directors, because these are mostly animation directors. But they produced this with Amy Pascal, who's the Sony person basically in charge of the Spider-Man stuff right now.
Mm-hmm.
And then Avi Arad, who way back in the day produced Blade, along with some other, like, he was basically doing the first Marvel movies.
Right. Wow.
Because I think he did the original Spider-Man movie.
Man.
If I'm not mistaken, like, Avi Arad's like big time, and like Stan Lee flat out called him a true believer.
Oh.
So I mean, like, you know, for the sake of fairness, Arad gave the Marvel universe some flack when it came out and everything like that, but yeah, like it's nice to see this love letter to Spider-Man.
Mm-hmm.
So well done.
Very much so.
On many levels, not just the fact that it's a love letter to Spider-Man. The animation is phenomenal.
Oh, it's so fluid. It pops right when you see it on the screen the first time. The colors are so vivid. Like, that's the main thing. Like, I appreciate the fact even in some of the quote-unquote darker scenes, it's still nice and bright.
Yeah, like there's maybe the animation in one scene, which I don't want to spoil,
right?
Where I thought the editing might have been the problem more than anything.
Mm-hmm.
But it's a scene early on where I was like, that was abrupt.
Yeah, I
maybe
think I know
they did that on purpose.
Yeah.
I think, yeah, you probably know what I'm talking about. But everything else on that, and like, yeah, later on we get some different animation styles.
Yeah.
I think we can safely say, look, there's a Spider-Verse. There's more than one Spider-Man in this movie.
Yeah, I mean, they give you the title. They tell you in the title what this is going to be about. So it's not like that's a spoiler.
And some of them have different animation styles.
I loved it. It was so cool because, like, when you see the specific character that they're referring to, and you see, like, oh my gosh, they actually did a different animation style to fit that character in correlation with the comic book. Like, I was so surprised.
Well, they did it with some of the other ones too. Like,
yeah.
You may not notice some as well as the others, but I mean, there's one point when you see a certain trio, and like, oh yeah, each one of these is animated very differently. And it's still integrated seamlessly. It's almost like a weird Who Framed Roger Rabbit moment.
Yeah, it really is.
No, yes, because we can't really talk too much about the plot. We will just say Miles Morales is the viewpoint character.
Yeah, played by Shameik Moore, who, man, did an excellent job. That guy.
Yeah. I don't actually have my IMDb open for him. What would I know him from?
Well, the main thing I first saw him from was The Get Down on Netflix. That was the first thing I saw him on, and I was like, man, he was decent in that, but this is like different level right now. It's kind of like the Michael B. Jordan deal. Like, you see him in one thing, it's like, oh, he's pretty decent. It's like, oh, now he's just completely different, on a different level.
Well, you don't remember him from House of Pain?
No!
Apparently it was an episode of House of Pain. I just quickly opened up his Wikipedia page and that was the first thing I saw.
Oh, man, that is too good.
I know, right?
I did not remember that. Sweet
He's
Jesus.
only in one episode.
Oh, good stuff, man.
Yeah. No, yeah, he does a really good job as Miles. Like, there's a couple of cringe jokes early on that I actually also didn't like, come to think of it, but in general, like, if there's one thing I always love, it's when a movie hits the right emotional tone for me, especially at the end.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's one of the reasons I love Ready Player One so much, despite the fact that like, I've rewatched it since I saw it, and I'm like, oh yeah, a couple of these things are really kind of dumb or kind of generic or not really well developed. That's disappointing.
Right.
And then it's like, but then at the end I'm always just like, oh yeah, this is why I love this movie.
Exactly.
Even though there's absolutely valid criticisms you can hurl at that one. In this case, I don't think there's necessarily that many valid ones you could throw this way.
Yeah, like, as well as movies
there's understandable ones, but I wouldn't say there's like, you know,
that really brings a detriment to the film.
Yeah, I mean, like, a lot of it would have to be to how you feel they interpreted some characters.
Right.
I mean, there's definitely some argument over if the interpretation's good. I mean, that's understandable. I mean, freaking, I will say one small spoiler. Tombstone shows up.
Yeah.
He never gets named.
Yeah. It's like, you were supposed to recognize him. Yeah, that was it. Yeah.
Yeah. Like, That's not really a critique, but it's like,
Not everybody knows the lore, Just,
yeah.
You can't spell it out for people sometimes. You don't.
I'd argue Tombstone is at least somewhat obscure. I mean, he was on the animated show in the '90s,
right? And he was in the video game recently, so that was the only thing. But
yeah, but it's still like I would say he's a little more obscure than some of the other ones. Like Scorpion's pretty well known by this point. He's maybe B tier because he was never the main villain in any of the
like
movies.
Him and Vulture are kind of like B tier now.
Yeah, well, Vulture's now A tier thanks to Far From Home, but I mean...
It's true, yeah.
Homecoming. Far From Home's coming out next year.
Yeah.
But, I mean, prior to that, Vulture was obscure.
Yeah.
It was funny when buddy of mine saw Prowler, he's like, is that supposed to be Vulture? I'm like, no, that's Prowler. Oh. Because I don't think they only named him Prowler like twice.
Yeah, that was another one. They did not give you indication too much of who he was as a character. Outside, like you said, if you generally know it, it's one thing, but that was probably the biggest flaw I noticed was like just the lack of name dropping, just to explain some characters.
Yeah, and just the voice cast because we talked about Shameik Moore.
Yeah,
Jake Johnson is really good in this.
Yeah.
Haley Steinfeld's really good in this. She's having a great 2018.
What about our favorite, Nicolas Cage, man?
Oh my God. Perfect casting.
No!
But like one of the more understated ones, I think, is going to be Lily Tomlin.
Yeah.
We can actually say who she plays. She plays Aunt May.
Yeah.
And she's clearly modeled, like Aunt May's clearly modeled on her.
Mm-hmm.
And she might be the best Aunt May we've ever had.
Very much so.
Of course, it helps in this one. Very small, mild spoiler. She knows that Peter Parker's Spider-Man.
Yeah.
That's just kind of a given. So I'm not gonna.
I love the fact now it's like becoming more of a thing now that Aunt May knows that Peter's Spider-Man, but she just lets him go about his business.
Well, because that was the thing in the '90s. Like right before she died in the '90s, she said, "I know you're Spider-Man. I've always known,
right? And
I've always been proud." And like then she sadly dies, and it's like that is one of the best death scenes in comic history. And then they resurrected her because F you.
Right.
It's the '90s and they suck. Oh yeah, and we got a shout out to Liev Schreiber. We can say who he's playing. He's Kingpin.
Right.
Kingpin's really interesting in this one.
Yeah.
Because they gave him a fascinating character design.
Yes, they did.
And it works. It's weird, but it works. I mean, that's probably something you can say about a lot of the designs.
Yeah.
Like Scorpion looks really weird.
Yeah.
Some of the other ones are pretty. I don't know. I probably shouldn't spoil some of them, so I'm not going to say them all. But there's some other villains who have some pretty good designs. There are some characters who have pretty good designs. I will say though, super sad we didn't get 1970s Sentai Spider-Man. Even just a reference to him being the guardian of hell.
Yeah, that would have been incredible.
And his great nemesis, Professor Monster.
Yeah.
Look, it's funny to us, but I mean, they basically had nothing but the name when they made that show.
Exactly. So.
I would have loved a reference to that though. Although the end credits, oh my God. Did you see the end credit sequence?
Yeah.
Yeah, you know.
Yeah.
I'm surprised you're not laughing at the memory. I found that a whole bit hilarious.
Yeah, no, it was really good. It really was.
Yeah.
Just a great movie, man. A great way to end the year for Sony and Marvel, really.
Yeah. I don't know if there's anything else you can really say about it.
It's not as good as Venom.
I'm just gonna rip off your arms and legs and toss you down the street. You'll be like a turd in the wind.
Oh man, seriously, like it's funny that I definitely needed, as I said, like a palate cleanser. Like this was a palate cleanser, and like Venom wasn't as bad as it could have been, but it's like, man, this is exactly what we wanted, and that's what we didn't want.
Yeah. Well, what can you do?
Yeah.
In this case, this one.
Hey,
well,
maybe there's a multiverse where the Venom movie is actually good.
Well, the Venom villain was fine.
Yeah, it's a buddy comedy. Yeah.
Yeah, you know what you gonna do.
But
yeah, I think
in truth, go see this movie. Go see Spider-Man. Go see it. Just don't wait. Do it now. turn off this podcast and do it now.
Absolutely. Like, yeah, this, like, I almost guarantee it's going to be probably our favorite animated film of the year.
Yeah.
Which is also saying something.
Yeah, very much so, yeah.
Because there was some pretty good animation this year.
It really was.
But, because, I mean, just the very unique animation style and, like, the blurring that they're doing, the kind of jerky stuff, you really don't notice it really quickly.
Mm-hmm.
And, like, the animation, yeah, it's just... everything about this is so good.
Very much so. I can't agree more. It's just a really, really, really good movie.
Yeah. Well, I think that's probably where we're going to wrap it up then.
Yeah. Try to end on a high note here. 2018, we're ending on a high note.
Yeah. Just gushing like crazy about a really, really freaking good movie. That's fine. So yeah, I guess thank you for joining me as always, James.
Oh, it was a pleasure. It's a pleasure. It's seeing so many heads explode after just simply walking away.
Well, you know what to say. You a shock. That there's a mark against Fist of the North Star. Didn't have you a shock. The Fist of the North Star theme song that is the best.
Oh,
although the other Fist of the North Star theme songs were also fun. Yeah, that was one thing we didn't talk about with Fist. Oh, such a great soundtrack too. Oh yeah, the game had a really good one, yeah, but it didn't have the original intro. It didn't have the less impressive secondary intro where they talk about dudes surviving.
Yeah.
Or even the third one, which was about being a tough boy.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Being alive in the 90s, fighting. Just anyone wondering what the hell I'm talking about? Just look up the intros to the Fist of the North Star anime. They're all amazing.
Yes.
Although the first one's probably my favorite, and the second one's probably my least favorite.
Yeah.
Just because you are shock. Crazy shouting.
Oh, good stuff.
Diamond King, man. He's still touring 30 years later.
Good grief.
I know,
God
right?
God bless that man.
If I ever go to Japan, I'm going to see if he has tickets available. Go to a Diamond King concert in Japan. Peak anime nerdness. Alright, I've been Peter W. Dawson. This has been the Pop Tower Podcast. Be sure to check out other fine articles on KwinnPop.com. Later, folks.